everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. I'm here with my liquid courage once again to talk about all of the books that I read for the month of February and talk a little bit more about what I am excited about for the month of March. February was kind of an awkward reading month for me, honestly. Usually I average somewhere around 4 to 5 books a month, but in February I only ended up reading 3. January was a very strange, sad, stressful month for us. And so moving into February, my headspace wasn't really there. We went to Detroit for a weekend, and then we also went to Northern Michigan, which is where I'm from. And anybody who travels with a baby knows there's just no time for reading. I plan on doing a video soon going more in depth into what my rating process looks like. I use both Goodreads and Storygraph. So on Goodreads, of course, it's just a solid number scale, whereas on Storygraph, you can use quarter increments as well, which is something that I personally prefer. So I do tend to go in that quarter increment range. The first book that I read for the month of February was The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. This book sounded like something that would be directly up my alley. I really love dystopian novels and especially stories that explore themes of motherhood. So this story about a mom who gets in trouble for having a very bad day and who gets sent to this experimental school for bad moms who are learning to be good. It sounded so good, and it just didn't quite hit the mark for me that I was expecting it to. This is the story of Frida. She has a baby daughter. She is recently divorced and sort of navigating that co-parenting life with her husband, who does actually seem like a really decent guy. And then she has her bad day and she gets in trouble, of course. The thing that was hard for me is that what she does on her very bad day is objectively a bad thing. Like, any mother would get in trouble for this. And so some sort of punishment seemed like it should follow what she did. So Frida goes to the school for good mothers, and the offenses of the mothers are really a range. So you have some mothers who are there for talking trash about their children on social media, complaining too much about their children. And then you have another mother that she sits with who puts her kids in a hole. And it's just a really terrible situation. Frida's situation, a little bit more in the middle, but it was really hard for me to know whether or not we were supposed to be rooting for Frida. Jessamine Chan's writing is very stark. There is not a lot of descriptors, but that does make it a lot more raw, feels a lot more realistic, but it does make it hard to have that emotional connection. I will also say that as a semi-new mom, like I've said in my intro, my son is 8 months old. As a new mom, this was extremely hard to read about all of these mothers who are kept away from their children for over a year at a time. Overall, The School for Good Mothers, it was good. I did enjoy that sort of stark, gritty sort of writing. I did love connecting with the other mothers in the story. There are definitely some weird aspects to this that I was not expecting. And I did also really enjoy how Jessamine Chan explores how motherhood can't be graded on a scale. Not every one mother is going to do the same thing, and not every child is going to be respective to those same things too. So I really appreciated what she was trying to explore there. I just really wish that I had a better idea of how I was supposed to feel for our main character, and I wish that the dystopian aspect of it was a little bit more amped up. Like, I was expecting more of those smaller mom talking trash about her kids on social media sort of offenses, and not actually like you should be in jail offenses. I would give the School for Good Mothers about 3.75 stars out of 5. The next two books that I read for the month of February, I read on my Kindle and on my phone. I got them from the library, which is how I get most of the books that I read. The first one was In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I was so excited to read this book. There are so many awesome reviews on YouTube. Everybody loves it. I was really going into it expecting this thriller to like knock my socks off. And I would say that it like gently pulled my socks off, but it didn't like blow them off of my body. I am sure that many of you have heard of this book, but in case you haven't, In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife is about Jess. And she is coming back to her college for her 10-year reunion. And she has spent the last 10 years since graduation becoming that girl. She has been trying to be super fit. She's blonde now. She is the youngest partner at her company, and she has really been fighting to get to that point in her life. When she gets to her reunion, she is reconnecting with her friends that she was really close to during her college years. And there's some secret like romances going on, little tensions bubbling below the surface. But the biggest tension of all is that this reunion also marks the 10-year anniversary of one of their own being brutally murdered in their dorm room. The case when they were in college went cold. They couldn't figure out who did it. One member of this group of friends was accused, but nothing could stick. And now at this reunion, they're all together and someone wants answers. They are really hoping to get to the bottom of what happened to Heather that night and figure out finally who did it. When I'm reading thrillers, I really like to see little glimpses into each character, enough to feel like any of them could have done it. This book has 6 main characters, I think, and we go through all of their stories while they were in college. We're getting to know who they were back then, who they were now, all of their different motives. And when it came to the conclusion of the story, I was kind of surprised, but only because the murderer's true character wasn't fully revealed until they get to that point where it's all coming out. And so when we get to that reveal, it didn't feel expected, but it also didn't feel like we earned it. It was like, oh, here's this character, here's who they actually are now. Enjoy. And that just didn't fully work for me. I also could feel the writer making decisions on the page. In the case of Jess, I am seeing Ashley Winstead potentially thinking, she's in college for this, but she wants to do something else, but she'll feel more successful if she does that instead. I also just couldn't feel her true motivation. There is a reason given, and I'm not sure if it's a spoiler or not, so I don't want to mention it. And that just didn't feel like enough. It was a very surface level sort of motivation that just didn't make sense for me. But then at the very end, we get this little glimpse into why that's her motivation. And it just felt like too little too late for me. I think I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 on Storygraph. I did start reading through it very quickly. I was really looking forward to seeing how the murder was solved. I did also really enjoy the toggling perspectives of them at the reunion and then back in college. I thought that was really well done and helped boost up the suspense. There is just those little character details and choices that were made on the page that left me feeling like I wanted a little bit more from that too. The last book that I read in the month of February actually feels a little bit silly to even mention, and that is The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie does not need my reviews on a 100-year-old book, so it does feel a little bit weird to even mention it or offer my thoughts on it, especially since I know that her Hercule Poirot series is extremely popular among people that love mystery novels. I have never read an Agatha Christie story before, and I really was just looking for something that I could breeze through on my phone while I was hanging out with my son or like he was sleeping on me. And so I didn't want anything too intense that if I was a little bit distracted, it wouldn't completely mess things up. And that would be a nice quick read to cap off my terrible reading month of February. This is the story about an elderly woman. She dies under mysterious circumstances at her large estate, the Styles estate, and one of the guests in her home, there are many guests in her home, but one of them, he is the friend of the son of the woman. She has a husband that nobody likes. There are a lot of speculations as to how she died. Was she poisoned? Was it natural causes? Who did it? And our narrator, Hastings, he calls upon the help of a friend of his that he knew from way back when, Hercule Poirot. I thought that the nature of the mystery itself was really cool. It was a very clever little mystery. It did keep me guessing. That being said, I think that I really like my mysteries and thrillers to be very detailed. I love the prose that carries me from place to place. I love getting to know the characters. I would say 90% of this book is all dialogue. We get Hastings talking to Poirot, Poirot talking kind of at Hastings. We get the interviews with all of the guests that are staying at Styles, and it is all drawn out and told through dialogue. So you kind of get little character details through the dialogue, but you're not actually connecting to any character. And so it got to the point where I just like didn't care who did it. A lot of the suspense building in this story, as well as Hastings asking Poirot a question, Poirot being like, just you wait, sir, like you will see soon enough. And they do that so many times. And then we get to the end and it's a very long, drawn out story from Poirot of how he put every little piece of the puzzle together to get to the conclusion of who killed this elderly woman. And so that I didn't necessarily love. I wish that we had been given a little bit more throughout the story, but like I said, Miss Agatha Christie does not need my feedback. She is very popular, and you don't need my input to tell you if you would like it. I know a lot of people really love the cozy mystery sort of stories, and so if you do, this would definitely be for you. I might read some more Agatha Christie in the future if I'm just looking for that more low stakes sort of mystery, but for now it was a solid 3.25 for me, and that is The Mysterious Affair at Styles. For as dismal as my reading was in the month of February, I think that March is going to slap. I have that thing happening where I have a couple of books going already. I am reading 2 books physically, 1 book on my phone. I've got an audio book going, and then I also have 2 very exciting books about to come into my overdrive literally any minute now. I'm hoping that they come through today. I mentioned them in my intro, but in March I am hoping to finish reading Misery by Stephen King. If you want more information about this one, watch my intro. So I'm not going to say much more about this, but I am hoping to finish this. I am also reading Verity by Colleen Hoover. Given how quickly I flew through the first 50 pages, I am also anticipating finishing this in the month of March. On audiobook, I am listening to Empire of Pain. I think his name is Patrick Radden Keefe. This is a chunky boy. It is a big book. It is a long audiobook. That's what I prefer to listen to on audio, is those big, beefy, like nonfiction audiobooks. It is much easier for me to follow as I'm going along on a walk or in my car. And so this one I think is a little bit over 19 hours, but it's a really engaging story about the Sackler family, who is kind of the face and reason for the opioid epidemic in America. This is not one of those super dry audiobooks. It is super engaging. I think it's narrated by the author himself, and the story that he's telling is just so interesting. It's not all about the court case so far or the boring like mundanity of like how these drugs came to be, but the Sackler family has such a rich history, lots of interesting little things and dramas going on, so I have really been enjoying following along with that. And on my phone, I am also currently reading Bunny from Mona Awad. I have heard so many things about this. It seems like one of those things where it's like, the girls who know, but the girls who don't. And I want to be the girl who knows. First impression so far, I think I'm like 20% into it. The first note that I wrote down was, is this book for people who haven't seen Heathers? And I only think of that because, you know, in the Heathers, we have Heathers. They're all named Heather. They all are sort of this beautiful, popular group that revolve around each other. And then we have our outsider, Miss Veronica, and she hates them, but she's also a part of them. And that's the sort of vibe that I'm getting from our narrator, Samantha, as she looks on to this group of women in her writing group that call themselves the Bunnies. The writing so far, though, is so stunning. It's so good. I have been highlighting all of these really great metaphors that she uses. There's lots of great mentions of beasts and mentions of monsters and this mysterious person that's running around allegedly beheading people in this sort of idyllic New England town. And so far it's off to a great start. I'm very intrigued to see where it's going. I have heard that it is weird. I have heard that people don't get it, but then sometimes they do. So I can't wait to see where this book goes. And then the two books that I am hoping to get to in the month of March. Today is March 7th. My library says that they are coming in March 7th, but I just haven't gotten them to my phone yet. And the first one is Hideout by Luisa Luna, which is the third book in the Alice Vega series. I absolutely love the Alice Vega series so far. The first one is called Two Girls Down, and the second one is called The Janes. Alice Vega, she's a badass. She is so cool. She is a bounty hunter who has a knack, especially for finding missing people. She's just really great at what she does, and she teams up with Cap, who is a retired police officer turned private investigator. The other two books in the series are so awesome. I read each of them within like 48 hours. I absolutely flew through them and love them both so much. So I truly cannot wait to see where Alice Vega is heading next. I think that this next one has something to do with like a white supremacist compound sort of thing. So it sounds very timely, very terrifying, and I just want to see Alice Vega kick some white supremacist ass. So as soon as that comes into my overdrive, I will absolutely be starting that. And the last book that I am hoping to read for the month of March is The Golden Couple by Sarah Pekkanen and Greer Hendricks. I have heard a lot of mixed reviews about this one so far. But I think that's kind of been the vibe for their other books as well. I have read all of the books of these two authors together, and they're just sort of those middle of the road thrillers. It's nothing that is truly mind blowing, but it is also very engaging and to the point where you can't stop reading them. My understanding, this is about a couple that goes to a relationship therapist. Her methods are unconventional. She's lost her license, and it sounds similar to the plot of one of their other books, so I am just slightly skeptical. I can't remember which one it is, but it deals with the weird, like, focus group sort of thing. So I'm hoping it's not too similar to books from them that I've already read. But since I'm on the track of reading all of their stuff anyways, I figured I would give this one a go too. I am so excited to see March hopefully be a much better reading month for me. I have got some really great books to look forward to. And I also just really wanted to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. I think as of filming this, I have almost 30 subscribers, which might sound like a drop in the bucket for some of the booktubers that I admire who have like tens of thousands, but 30 is really the confidence booster I needed to keep making videos. This is not necessarily something that I feel totally comfortable with yet. Thank you, anxiety. But I am really looking forward to talking about books with everybody, pushing myself a little bit more creatively, and just talking to more people about some nerd shit. So thank you guys so much for subscribing and liking so far. And please, if you're new, feel free to subscribe as well. Come along for this ride with me, and then be sure to like and leave a comment below. Tell me what you're excited about for the month of March, or if there are any new releases that you can't wait to read. Thank you guys, and cheers!